Ranking historical figures like Roman emperors is kind of silly. There is just no adequate way to account for all the different circumstances, varied length of reign, and lack of objective sources. However, it is also very fun, because it presents a lot of opportunities for interesting discussions. I wanted to figure out which region of the empire produced the best emperors, so for this I needed to answer 3 questions. How to split the territory geographically, how to rank emperors individually, and how to combine the individual rankings into regional rankings. For the geographical split, I decided to use Diocletian's dioceses. There are 12 of them, which is a good number for a list like this, and they represent the historical regions of the empire pretty decently. The amount of entries from each diocese varies from 0 to 56, but this is simply a consequence of having large urban centers, and the fact that some territories were in the empire for much longer periods of time than others. To rank the emperors individually, I came up with a system that assigns a score for each emperor based on their achievements in 5 categories: statesmanship, military affairs, crisis management, legacy, and succession. An emperor can earn anywhere from -20 to +20 points in the statesmanship category, and from -10 to +10 in all the rest. On rare occasions, emperors exceed these values, because I don't really think there is a limit to how much a ruler can do throughout his reign, or alternatively to how much he can screw things up. The examples of an emperor exceeding a perfect score are Augustus in legacy category and Aurelian in military category. Given these reference values, a near-perfect emperor will score a +60, and an absolute disaster would get -60. So on my first go, I gave a score to 173 Roman emperors, and the distribution came out looking like this. I am going to review both the system itself and my scores for each emperor, and I will invite my viewers to participate in the discussion. The individual scores are subject to change, but there are already some conclusions that I can make based on the existing ones. So to find out which region produced the best emperors, I took my scoreboard, grouped the emperors based on their place of birth, and calculated the average score of each group. There are 16 people missing from this list, and there may be some inaccuracies, but I don't think they would have changed the standings significantly. We have 12 regions to go through, so let's begin. At the bottom, we have the Diocese of Viennensis with a single entry and an average score of -6. Poor Constantine II stands alone against everyone else and fails miserably, just like in his stupid civil war. I thought about grouping him together with the rest of Gallia, but decided to preserve the consistency. So as you can see, if there were some good emperors coming from France, they definitely were not from its southwestern part. The Diocese of Oriens was a huge and very populous part of the Roman Empire. Surprisingly, it provided very few rulers, and those few on average were pretty mediocre. Some decent emperors like Constantine Monomachus are dragged down by the abysmal score of Elagabalus, so their average score gets just below 0. If we'd go with the finer geographical division, the province of Isauria would have outranked Syria, and surprisingly, Egypt wouldn't have gotten a single entry, despite its importance for the empire. Overall, the emperors from this region were few, and didn't leave a significant collective impact. Written to this list is what Constantine III was to my ranking of Constantines. It didn't do anything, but still managed to beat 2 competitors. With a perfect 0 score, Britain gets spot number 10. Next one on the list is Thracia. Thrace has the most entries because it includes the city of Constantinople. Out of 56 entries, only 9 of them are provincial Thracians. The rest are Constantinopolitans, born and raised. Constantinople has produced some of the best Roman emperors, but also some of the worst, and together the Thracian-born rulers average to 5.3. Provincials actually increase the average for Thrace, since they have a pretty decent 11.1 average score, compared to the capital's 4.48. Constantinople and Thrace owe their low placement to the Angelid dynasty, all members of which have a negative score, with a couple of them being contenders for the very last spot. Eking out by a meager 0.03 above the Thracians are 3 African emperors. The bulk here is provided by an above-average emperor Septimius Severus, while the remaining 2 are pretty mediocre. Five emperors from Gaul, led by Uncle Claudius, were very close to getting into the top half, but barely missed. They benefited from ditching Constantine II, but Caracalla still dragged them down. I expected there to be more emperors from Gaul, but turns out it only produces emperors once in a century. 7 emperors are known to have come from the Diocese of Asiana, which roughly corresponds to old imperial provinces of Asia in Lycia and Pamphylia. Zeno carries the bunch, since he is the only one who scored above 10. But no one from the region managed to be a complete disaster, at least not for long enough to go deep into the negative. The heartland of the old empire has produced 30 emperors, who score surprisingly high on average. The spread is pretty wild from Caligula and Commodus to Augustus and Vespasian. If we separate the emperors born in the city of Rome from those born in the rest of Italy, the capital boys would have beaten the provincials squarely, 13.9 to 3.3. For the early empire, Rome and Italy were the only sources of candidates for the high office, so the extreme highs and lows of Italian emperors reflect its turbulent early history. The later entries were mostly the puppet emperors of the 5th century, who only brought Italy's score closer to 0. Pannonia had produced 15 Roman emperors with an average score of 10.5 and gets the 4th spot. It presents a very solid roster of military-oriented emperors, but the total average suffers from having too many emperors who didn't do much and got an individual score close to 0. The Diocese of Pannonia consisted of the provinces of Pannonia and Dalmatia, and the province of Pannonia had more of those inconsequential emperors, so Dalmatia would have ranked higher if we divided the empire by provincial boundaries. But even with those included, Pannonia ranks very highly because it's been a source of very good leaders who helped the empire survive through the crisis of the 3rd century. Pontica is the dark horse of this list. The Diocese of Pontica stretches from Bithynia in western Anatolia through the Black Sea coast all the way to Armenia. Its high placement may be surprising at first, but if you think about it, it starts to make sense. This region during the Byzantine period played the same role as the Balkans did in the 3rd and the 4th centuries, a source of good military leadership. The eastern frontier produced a lot of successful generals, primarily of Armenian descent. Add to this a couple of decent Nicene emperors and a lack of absolute disasters, and you get yourself a ranking as the 3rd best breeding ground of Roman emperors. And the silver goes to Moesia. No surprise here, since it gave the empire some of the fan favorites: Aurelian, Constantine, Justinian, and the others. It also contains Epirus, which would have won the whole thing if I decided to do the ranking by individual province. A death struggle between Epirus and Armenia for the top spot would have ensured a lot of activity in the comments, but I hope there is still enough material for a lively discussion. The reason that so many good emperors came from Moesia is similar to that of Pannonia and Pontica. The Danube frontier in some periods was the most turbulent boundary of the empire, and provided plenty of opportunity for ambitious men to improve their status by rising through the ranks of the army. This is why men from the Balkans were so dominant in Roman leadership for a couple of centuries before the loss of Western territories. And the top spot on the list goes to Hispania. Hispania produced only 4 emperors, but 2 of them were exceptionally good. Out of the 2 remaining, Theodosius was above average and Arcadius just didn't do much, so he couldn't tank the average score. With so few entries, there is no point in searching for any patterns here. Spain's placement at the top is primarily the achievement of Trajan, who became so popular during his army career that Nerva was practically forced to pick him as a successor. Trajan is also the first provincial emperor, and the success of his reign is one of the main reasons why Romans became more open to the idea of non-Italian ruling over them. Also brought Hadrian to Rome, and with his distinguished career, it would have taken a couple of absolute disasters to dethrone the Spaniards from the top of this list. So here are the rankings. We can see some trends. Capitals average out to the middle, military frontier regions perform well because of their competitive environment, and the outliers with few entries go to the extremes. Let me know in the comments if you found any of this surprising, or you have an alternative viewpoint. I am interested in refining both my scoring system and the individual scores, so I hope you'll join me in the discussion. And as always, thanks a lot for watching till the end, and I'll see you in the next one.
Ahora más que nunca hay que ser español y sacar banderas a la calle, porque ellos en el fondo quieren seguir en España. Ellos son españoles y lo han dicho públicamente. Son españoles. Venga, venga. ¡Viva España! ¡Viva España, Xavi! Me cago en la leche. ¡Viva España, Bolloni! ¡Tú eres español! ¡Viva España! ¡Otra vez! ¡Viva España! Y Puyol es español. ¿Cómo Puyol? ¿Cómo? Es español. ¿Y Puyol cómo es? ¡Español! Señores, bandera de los balcones. ¡Viva España! Señores, hay que estar ahí porque son españoles. ¡Cago en la leche!